Andy Tabrizi, CEO of Recentive Analytics. Thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So for those who don't know, I'm wondering if you can give us an overview of what Recentive Analytics is, who you work with, and what you guys do.
Sure, absolutely. So what we do is to build software platforms through about 1,000 different data sources to enable our clients to understand and answer those what-if questions that they need to answer every single day, right? So that manifests itself in all sorts of different ways. So if you take someone like the NFL, who we've been working with since 2017, when a star quarterback like Joe Burrow gets hurt earlier in the season, and they need to know what will happen to the rest of our national TV schedule. What if Joe Burrow comes back in week 10? What if the Bengals are 2-8? Our software enables them to answer those questions precisely and on demand. But then you take it down to a sports team, for instance, right? And like the Oklahoma City Thunder, our first ever client, and they need to know, hey, we have fans in our upper level, our diehard fans, that we don't really pay attention to, right? What are those benefits, what are the perks we should be giving them and focusing on to enable them to maximize their opportunity and organically maximize our retention? So what we do is to provide forecasting and simulation tools to enable them to get the answers they need with the precision that they've been looking for years.
Now, in a lot of cases, like if we're going to talk about data-driven needs, like people's minds go to Moneyball in sports, but on the business side, this has been like a really burgeoning space. I'm wondering if you could speak to kind of the technological need that teams are seeing and they're recognizing and kind of how you're filling that gap.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about a sports team, a sports league, a TV network we may work with, these are multi-billion-dollar businesses that candidly have the benefit of having customers that are literally born, right? So somebody is a Buffalo Bills fan because their grandparents and even beyond that were. So they have this built-in insulation that candidly a lot of other industries do not have. And so as a result of that, they were able to operate for a long time without engaging the same types of practices that other industries did. And then as Moneyball came around and technology became a more prevalent thing, they realized the same need that other industries had picked up on. So what we do is we bring together at this point about 1,300 different data sources. So that's first-party data we get from the team, the league, the network, to third-party sources that you may never think about that actually connect to fan demand. So for instance, when we're forecasting viewership for the NFL, we're considering everything from the price of an Airbnb rental to how many high school basketball games are going on in the city.
Wow,
right?
okay.
So that level of precision is what helps them answer the questions that 10 or 15 years ago they just couldn't get to.
So how does your business model work? How do you take these kind of insights that you're delivering to these teams and turn it into a nice sized bottom line?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that we started was to offer very bespoke, specific predictive models, right? So the Thunder needed to know what will our attendance be for every single home game. The NFL needed to know what will viewership be on platform X or platform Y. And so they were paying us, an annual license fee to get access to that software. And what we realized was they kept coming back to us and asking different questions, right? So the NFL would come back and say, hey, well, we have a game on Netflix now. What if we went to Hulu? Or a team would come back to us and say, hey, we have this arena now. What if we built a new one? What if we renovated it? What if we shifted the platform or whatever it may be? And so we've actually provided them now with a AI offering, right? So instead of having very specific models they can tap into, they can leverage our models in completely generalized ways. And so now we've gone from a case where you may have 2 or 3 people at an organization that are looking at very specific forecasts to now, in the case of a Live Nation, for instance, over 1,000 different users are using it to tap into the most mundane everyday question to the largest ones that are impacting their biggest questions every day.
So kind of like in the vein of software as a service is kind of...
yeah, absolutely. So if you think about it, right, so it's like kind of the comparison of everybody's familiar with the ChatGPT or a similar platform. So what we set out to do was instead of trying to solve every single problem, right, we're not trying to tell our customers where to go to dinner or what Valentine's Day gift to get for their wife, but instead to say for the problems you care about, media focus, fan focus, ticketing, sponsorship, those types of problems, here's a way to get to the depth you need. And the key part there is everybody's used the ChatGPT or whatever it may be, and they're incredible platforms, but they're not perfect, right? They may answer a question in a way that makes you scratch your head a little bit. So we've really focused on the need for precision and reliability because we know if somebody logs in once and gets an answer that doesn't make sense, they're not going back. So they have the trust and the credibility that we provide to go to their boss or go to their client, whoever it may be, and show them those results with a lot of confidence.
Well, I mean, if I give you the data points, can you tell me what to get my girlfriend for Valentine's Day? Or
if I had the answer, I'd do it myself.
Are you agnostic when it comes to sports, or do you kind of see opportunities in different sports or leagues that might be more prevalent than other ones as your business kind of scales up?
When we started, it was really focused on kind of big 4 US sports, right? It was, okay, we need the scale of NFL viewership or the scale of an NBA attendance. And what we realized is that the core thing we're trying to solve is the what will happen if question, right? And that may actually be more important to startup leagues or to leagues that are changing their business model than to the established ones. So we do a lot of work now across tennis globally. We do work with Jessica Berman, the NWSL, who you just had on here, and helping them look at new business models in a way that they just couldn't before. So instead of taking the status quo and here's the season, here are our TV partners, and here's the way that we're going to price our tickets. Let's reimagine the entire problem, but do it in a way that's instantaneous, right? If you think about that problem, it was probably a 6-month consulting project in the past to look at what if we shifted our calendar, what if we built a new stadium. They can now answer those questions with about 98% predictive accuracy in literally the matter of seconds.
So is there a specific kind of example or kind of use case you can walk through about, kind of redefining the business model or a business problem in an emerging league?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you take the tennis tournaments, right, there's the 500s all the way through the Grand Slams, and they've had the same type of model, like the same number of days, the same players go on the same courts, and they've never really thought about, well, how do we actually maximize our global audience while also considering on-site attendance? So, for instance, the USTA, who we've worked with for a very long time, exceptional business, but they've now realized, hey, we've kind of maxed out through the way that we used to go about this. What would happen if we were to broadcast in different ways? What if we were to bring different matches on different courts? What if we were to change our model? So Louis Armstrong Stadium historically has been a GA stadium, right? If you have a grounds pass, you can go in there. They took the half step with our help to say, okay, we're going to make the lower bowl reserved. That helped them dramatically. It was a better fan experience as well. Then they saw, well, the lines got really long now for the upper deck, and let's change that as well. And now, hey, maybe we should open up to Fan Week being a completely different experience, right? So this isn't just about how do you maximize revenue in the short term, but also how do you make this more accessible? The US Open is a expensive proposition for a family to go to. But now what they've done is really make the tournament 3 weeks long, and through Fan Week, getting their biggest players to come, you've now let families come and enjoy the experience the same way a massive corporation would at a far lower price point.
To what degree is artificial intelligence playing a role in your business? I mean, today, every business in some way, shape, or form is using it. I mean, based on the work you do, it sounds like a little more on the early adopter side. But I'm wondering how you're using AI and how that's kind of streamlining things.
Well, I think the reality is that AI is only as good as the data it has access to, right?
Yeah.
And so when we started, this was about being a data company first and a sports tech company second, right? So we focused on building pipelines and a data ecosystem that I believe rivals the biggest of tech companies. And now we've just applied it in the sports and entertainment world. And so what AI has been able to let us do is to provide answers faster and generalize the offering. But the reality is an AI platform just sitting on top of a mundane, limited data set is not really going to give you a lot of value.
So let me ask you, how do you build kind of this accurate, usable data set? Like if I need data about high school sports scores, and my only way to do it is sending someone to each game, that may not yield the most reliable data all the time. So how do you, when you're taking, I think you said 1,300 different types of data,
yeah,
how do you create reliable sources for all that?
Well, it's what we've been doing for pretty much the entirety of my adult life. So the short answer is it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of money. But what we really set out to do when we started was, let's not just focus on the data sources that people obviously think about, right? So if you're trying to forecast viewership for an NFL game, most people think about the players, the playoff implications, fan following of a certain team, all that kind of stuff. What we set out to do is, well, I could be the biggest football fan that exists. The NFL is still not the biggest thing in my life, right? It's still a small piece of my overall day, how much money I'm spending, all that. So we said, okay, let's start with other data sources, right? Kind of independent things that may not be obvious to people, and then just kind of build out from there. So do we have 100% coverage on middle school basketball or the concert that 50 people are going to? No, but we feel like we've gotten to a place where sports, entertainment, we're literally parsing economic reports, we're bringing in hospitality data, we're bringing in economic reports and all that kind of stuff to get to a place where we feel like maybe you don't have 100% coverage, that might be a bit of a pipe dream, but we're getting pretty close.
What's your background? How did you build this business?
So the company really started when I was a kid, and I, like anybody else, was playing fantasy football with my friends, but I never understood, honestly, the point of playing fantasy football because everybody just did the same thing. Some person on some sports talk show said, hey, this is the best quarterback, this is the 5th best quarterback, and that's how you pick your team. So it was a fun social activity, but it wasn't really anything that was intellectually stimulating for me. And so I started building my own models back then to predict player performance that was completely independent of what somebody on ESPN or MLB would say. And I got quite good at that. So I ended up effectively hustling a lot of middle school kids in fantasy football. My mom was a teacher at a middle school. They had a March Madness pool every year. I was asked very politely to not participate anymore because I had won too many years in a row. And so then when I kind of hit adulthood, I said, hey, can I turn this into a business? And honestly, it was not about doing what we're doing now. I never kind of thought it would transform into what it has. But I had the interest in sports. I always had the interest in the predictive modeling piece. So I started trying to contact anyone and everyone in the sports world with the very simple question of, what do you want to be able to forecast better?
Yeah.
And I will help you with that. And so the very first use case years ago, back in the OKC Thunder heyday with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and all that, it was, hey, we're sold out. We don't know how many people will attend our games. That impacts staffing, arena operations, promotions, retention, all that. help us predict attendance, and we'll pay you. And it's all kind of happened since then.
Wow, okay, that's quite the story. What do you see in the future for the business? Do you want to raise more funding, or are you trying to scale in different ways? What's kind of next?
So we've been profitable now for a long time. The company's grown very significantly year over year. I think the biggest opportunities for us are twofold. One, internationally, right? So I mentioned kind of tennis globally. We're now working with the English Premier League and others internationally, but also taking our model and applying it outside of sports entertainment, right? So I touched on a Live Nation. We work with TV networks as well. But our belief is that because of the data sets we have, that we're actually going to be able to attack the same problems in retail or housing, whatever that industry may be. That's not just sports and entertainment, because like I mentioned, we're about being a data company and not being a sports tech company.
Yeah. What are the obstacles to kind of scaling?
I think honestly it's confidence, right? I think the reality is because of Moneyball and the tech boom and everything else, every decision maker has been pitched 500 different ways of, hey, I can solve your problems. And in some ways I'm thrilled about that because they've seen all the failures, but you're fighting that inertia now. And so where we really separate ourselves is being like, let's just focus not on a recommendation, not on a UI or anything else, but just the forecast, right? Because that is an objective measure of what is best. And so our initial sales pitch years ago was, you can do this with 10 other people. Like, I welcome that. I just want our number to be the 11th on that piece of paper when you're trying to forecast whatever that metric is. And time again, we've proven our models to be 20% plus more accurate than everybody else's.
Having gone to the market and raised money before working with big investment firms, I'm curious kind of what those firms bring to your company. You know, like what strategic advantages are you gaining by working with kind of some of the institutional capital out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easy answer is that they help open some doors, they have networks, they have relationships, everything else. But really the benefit to us is they've seen the product playbook before, right? They've been involved with companies that started where we are and have gone to some really significant scale. And so as we think about our product evolution, they're really there to help us see the pitfalls before they happen and help us get to a much faster outcome than we could have otherwise.
What else do we need to know about Recentive Analytics?
Well, where do I start? But I think ultimately, right, my belief is this company started as a pet project for me at 12 years old. It's morphed into me being here today, 20 years plus later, that I really believe we're at the beginning of our evolution. That, while we've gone from a company that had a 75 square foot office down the street to a very large one that's now open over the summer, I think we're really in our early innings. And what we're really focused on is continuing to expand the portfolio that we can give back to our customers, right? And there's also a network effect to what we're doing, which I think oftentimes is lost, in that yeah, our model may not have seen the specific case happen for Major League Baseball or for whatever that property is, but because of all the properties we've worked with, it actually is able to create these synthetic data sets. The more properties we work with, everybody's better off, and that's really a big selling point to people, right, is that, hey, you have not gone through this before, but our model literally has, and it can help you get to a place that you couldn't have gotten to without us.
Yeah. Andy Tabrizi, thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much.